In a packed courtroom, where whispers and the rustle of papers created a tense atmosphere, all eyes were fixed on the imposing figure of Judge Reynolds. Known for his strictness and unyielding gaze, he embodied the stern face of justice. As the heavy doors creaked open, a hush fell over the room. 17-year-old Jordan Carter, a black teenager, entered, clutching a worn briefcase and adjusting an oversized blazer. His sneakers squeaked softly against the polished floor as he made his way to the defense table. Murmurs rippled through the room, a mix of curiosity and quiet disdain. Judge Reynolds, a faint, condescending smile playing on his lips, quipped, "This isn't the gymnasium, is it? Are you sure you're not lost on your way to basketball practice?" Soft laughter, led by the opposing attorney Franklin Moore, filled the room. But Jordan didn't falter. He straightened his shoulders, looked directly at the judge and replied, his voice young yet steady, "No, Your Honor. I'm here to defend my mother." The courtroom fell silent, the weight of his words hanging in the air. Jordan's boldness wasn't innate, it was forged in hardship. He and his mother, Angela Carter, lived in a neglected neighborhood, their small house a testament to their struggles. Angela, a tireless cleaner, worked extra shifts to keep a roof over their heads and food on the table. Despite the peeling paint and leaky faucet, their home was filled with warmth, laughter, and Angela's unwavering hope for a better tomorrow. She constantly reminded Jordan that education was his escape from the cycle of poverty. One afternoon, Angela found an eviction notice tucked under their door. Her face fell as she read the unforgiving words. "They're saying I owe back rent," she murmured, her voice trembling. "But I've paid. I know I've paid." Jordan, sensing her distress, took the paper. "Mom, this doesn't add up," he said, his brow furrowed. "Something's wrong here." Angela, defeated, whispered, "People like us, we don't win. They'll find a way to take everything." Her words, heavy with resignation, ignited a fierce resolve in Jordan. He clenched the paper, determined not to let them lose their home without a fight. That night, as Angela sat on the couch, lost in thought, Jordan approached her. "Mom," he said softly, "we can't just let this happen. You've done everything for me, now it's my turn." Angela shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. "Jordan, you're just a boy. They've got lawyers, contracts, power. We can't fight them." But Jordan persisted, "What if we can? What if they're wrong? This notice doesn't make sense." He then proposed the unthinkable, "What if I represented you?" Angela stared, stunned. "Jordan, that's impossible. You've never studied law." "I can learn," he interrupted, his voice steady. "You've always told me to work hard, to never give up." A long silence followed, broken only by the hum of the old refrigerator. Angela, seeing the strength she thought lost reflected in her son's eyes, finally whispered, "If you think you can do this, I'll stand with you. Always." From that night on, their small kitchen table transformed into Jordan's makeshift law office. Sleepless nights were spent poring over borrowed law books, printouts, and his neatly handwritten notes. Angela, a mix of pride and worry, watched him from the doorway. One evening she gently told him, "Jordan, you don't have to do this alone." But he replied, "Mom, if I don't, who will? They're counting on us giving up, but we won't." Late one night, a crucial detail caught his eye in a housing rights guide. All eviction notices must be notarized by a valid, practicing notary public to be legally enforceable. His heart skipped a beat. He grabbed the eviction notice from the wall and scanned it. The signature seemed odd. He quickly typed the notary's name into his laptop, his fingers trembling. After an hour of digging, he found it. The notary listed had retired 2 years before the notice was issued. This wasn't a mistake, it was fraud. His exhaustion vanished, replaced by a surge of adrenaline. This was their break, but it meant he had to prepare more rigorously than ever. The following days were consumed with preparation. Jordan turned the living room into a courtroom, practicing his arguments in front of a mirror, anticipating every question. His voice grew stronger, his words more precise. "I'm not just doing this for us," he told his mother one evening. "If we let them get away with this, they'll do it to someone else. I can't let that happen." The night before the hearing, Angela brought him food, but he barely touched it, meticulously reviewing his notes. "Not yet," he said softly, "just a little more." The next morning, clutching his binder, Jordan stood before the courthouse. His oversized blazer still hung awkwardly, but his eyes held unwavering determination. It was time to face the system. Back in the courtroom, Jordan, though outwardly composed, felt the immense pressure of the moment. "Your Honor," he began, his voice steady, Today I am here to prove that my family's eviction was not only unjust but also in violation of the law. Judge Reynolds arched an eyebrow. Before Jordan could continue, Franklin Moore, the landlord's attorney, interjected with a condescending smirk. Tell me, young man, where exactly did you learn all of this? Was it a crash course on YouTube? Laughter rippled through the gallery. Jordan met Moore's gaze directly. I didn't learn this from YouTube, Mr. Moore, he replied, his voice calm but firm. I learned it by studying the same laws that are supposed to protect all of us. Judge Reynolds, intrigued, allowed him to proceed. Jordan opened his binder, his hands no longer trembling, and meticulously laid out the sequence of events. His mind briefly revisited the long nights of preparation, especially the moment he discovered the fraudulent notary signature. That realization had solidified his resolve. Moore, attempting to rattle him, then cited Section 45 of the Landlord-Tenant Act, questioning if Jordan denied his mother was late on rent. Jordan remained calm. No, Mr. Moore, he stated, I'm not here to deny that payments were delayed. But what I am here to prove is that this eviction notice, he held up the document, was issued fraudulently. The signature at the bottom belongs to a notary who retired 2 years before this notice was dated. That makes it invalid regardless of payment status. A murmur spread through the gallery. Moore's confident smile faltered. Moore quickly countered with Section 52, claiming procedural errors don't prevent eviction if rent isn't paid. But Jordan didn't miss a beat. That's correct, he conceded, but only if the tenant has been provided a valid notice beforehand. This notice is fraudulent. The law is clear. Invalid documents render the entire eviction process void. Surely a seasoned lawyer like yourself would know that. The room fell silent, the gallery now filled with hushed admiration. Even Judge Reynolds leaned forward, a flicker of curiosity and respect in his eyes. Moore, visibly frustrated, returned to his seat. The first challenge had been met, but Jordan knew the battle was far from over. With renewed focus, Jordan presented his crucial evidence. Your Honor, he stated, holding up the eviction notice, at the bottom of this notice is a notarized signature from Martha Allen. However, Martha Allen retired as a notary public 2 years before this document was issued. This isn't just a mistake, it's deliberate fraud. He then presented official records of Martha Allen's notary certification and her state-filed retirement paperwork, confirming his claim. Moore interjected, Your Honor, this is an outrageous claim. How does this child even have access to such information? Jordan turned to him, his voice calm. I did my research, Mr. Moore. The law is accessible to anyone who is willing to study it. Moore, flipping through his notes, argued that financial obligations trumped a procedural error. But Jordan firmly countered, the law doesn't see it that way, Mr. Moore. State law explicitly requires a valid notice before any eviction proceedings can begin. A fraudulent document voids the process entirely. The room held its breath. Judge Reynolds, now keenly interested, said, Mr. Carter, these are serious accusations. If this evidence is verified, it could fundamentally alter the course of this case. He called for a brief recess to authenticate the documents. Jordan exhaled, glancing back at his mother, whose eyes glistened with pride. When the court reconvened, Judge Reynolds, his expression unreadable, sifted through Jordan's submitted documents. Mr. Carter, the judge began, his tone even, the evidence you've presented is compelling. But interpreting the law correctly is crucial. I have some questions. Jordan calmly answered every query, citing specific sections of the State Tenant Protection Act and relevant legal precedents like State v. Harper 2008 and Franklin v. Rhodes 2011, with remarkable precision. When asked about the potential societal impact of his argument, Jordan's voice was firm. Your Honor, I believe the law must apply equally to all. If my argument sets a precedent, it's because the current system allows loopholes that harm people like my family, those without the resources to fight back. Judge Reynolds leaned back, tapping his pen. Mr. Carter, he finally said, I've seen seasoned attorneys stumble over questions like these. But you, Mr. Carter, have shown a level of preparation and understanding that rivals professionals in this courtroom. It's remarkable, truly. The courtroom remained silent, absorbing the weight of the judge's words. The room was utterly silent as Judge Reynolds, for the first time, looked at Jordan with something akin to admiration. Mr. Carter, the judge began, his voice clear, you've presented your arguments with clarity, precision, and an understanding of the law that far exceeds my expectations. I'll admit, when you first walked into this courtroom, I underestimated you. But today you've reminded me of a fundamental truth. Justice doesn't discriminate, not by age, race, or background. It's driven by truth and courage, and you have shown both." The words resonated deeply. Heads in the gallery began to nod in agreement. A man who had laughed earlier whispered, "Maybe I misjudged him." An elderly woman, dabbing her eyes, murmured, "That boy has more integrity than most grown men I've ever met." Even Franklin Moore, the opposing counsel, sat stiffly, his expression a mix of frustration and grudging respect. Jordan stood at the defense table, the oppressive weight of judgment replaced by validation. He had fought against doubts and assumptions, and now he was finally seen. He glanced at his mother, Angela, who sat silently, tears shimmering in her eyes, her small nod a powerful affirmation of her pride. Judge Reynolds continued, "You've taught us all something today, Mr. Carter. Not just about the law but about resilience and integrity. Your work here is remarkable, and I hope this is only the beginning of your journey." Jordan met the judge's gaze, his voice steady but humble. "Thank you, Your Honor. I'll carry this lesson with me." The judge's lips curved into a faint smile. "You've earned this victory, son, and I suspect you'll earn many more in the future." Jordan's heart pounded as Judge Reynolds lifted his gavel. "The court rules in favor of the defendant, Angela Carter," he announced clearly. "The eviction notice is hereby declared invalid. The plaintiff is ordered to compensate the Carter family for wrongful eviction and emotional distress." A moment of stunned silence gave way to scattered applause. Angela gasped, covering her face as tears streamed down her cheeks. She rushed to Jordan, embracing him tightly. "You did it," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You really did it. You're my pride, my hope, my everything." Jordan hugged her back, his own eyes glistening. "We did it, Mom," he replied softly. "This victory is ours." As the courtroom emptied, Judge Reynolds approached them. "Mr. Carter," he said, extending a hand, "I owe you an apology. When you first walked into this courtroom, I assumed you didn't belong here. I let my own assumptions and biases cloud my judgment. But today, you've shown me that justice doesn't care about age, race, or background. It cares about truth and courage, and you've displayed both in remarkable ways." Jordan nodded, his voice quiet but firm. "Thank you, Your Honor. That means a lot to me." Reynolds smiled faintly, placing a hand on Jordan's shoulder. "You have a rare gift, son. If you're serious about pursuing law, I'd be honored to mentor you. This field needs people like you." Angela, her heart full, expressed her gratitude. Stepping out of the courthouse into the warm midday sun, the weight of the trial lifted, replaced by a sense of hope. Jordan paused at the top of the steps, his eyes drawn to the clear blue sky. "One day I'll come back," he murmured, his voice low but filled with determination. "Not as a defendant but as a lawyer. I'll fight for people like us." Angela turned to him, her smile radiant. "You'll do it, Jordan," she said with quiet certainty. "I know you will." Together they walked home, their steps lighter. The modest house they had fought so hard to protect stood waiting, its door open to welcome them back. Jordan glanced over his shoulder one last time at the courthouse in the distance, his face calm but resolute. His journey had only just begun.